All right, welcome to another episode of Double B Creates, where we're talking to influencers, movers, shakers, and anyone else who we think is awesome. So today we're talking to somebody who helps people live to their fullest potential. He doesn't have a very big online presence, but this is going to be interesting because I feel like you're going to bring some perspectives that we haven't seen before. So without any further rambling from myself, thank you so much for hopping on and giving us some of your time, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. That being said, today we're talking to Mike Dankert, so thank you.
Thank you. Likewise. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
My wife told me not to sniff every time I do the intro, and I just realized that I did it again, so whatever.
Wouldn't notice if you didn't say anything.
Oh, man. So we talked a little bit before we hit the button to record. You said that you don't like social media, that you'd prefer to meet people in person, which I think is interesting, and I want to get into that. But let's start off by having you introduce yourself a little bit more in depth than I did, and then followed up by where people can find you if they're interested in seeking your assistance.
Right on. Yeah, so again, my name is Mike Dankert. So I really focus on, and my mission is to help people create and live a life by their own design, where they don't get held up by circumstances, influences by friends and family, or any other limitations. It's really unfortunate how many people's lives are dictated by those things, and they're not designing out their own life. They're having their life designed out by somebody else, which creates a negative impact and a lot of lack of fulfillment and happiness, where we're forced to do things. And we live in such an amazing world where we can literally create and do anything that we want. We just have to put our minds to it, be resourceful, is the simplest version, but it's all possible. As far as being able to find me, sure, we can put my information, my Facebook, my phone number somewhere and a link, or I can just say it. Like you stated, I'm not really big on social media, which is kind of very odd these days, especially for a gentleman my age. So many people are constantly online and in front of some type of screen 24/7, or just all the time in general. And I really like to connect with people in person, have that face-to-face interaction, and really get more personal.
Do you feel like not being on social media as much as a lot of these other people has impacted your business in a negative or positive way?
I would say it definitely has a negative impact. Social media certainly has a way to reach so many more people, so much easier all at once. And honestly, it's partly not my favorite thing because I still get a little weird being on camera, or if I'm speaking in front of a group of people. So I'm slowly but surely working my way in that direction, and I do Momentum Monday videos on my personal Facebook page, and I do speak in front of groups and sign up for speaking spots purposely to get outside of my comfort zone and reach more people. So it's not that I'm against it or completely unwilling, but my preference and what really fulfills me and provides me energy and what I love most is being with people in person.
Yeah, it makes sense because there's so much crap online, and there's like you could be anybody you want to be. And then there's that whole issue of catfishing, and there's the people that are full of shit. But if you meet them in person, excuse me, then you can have more of a genuine conversation.
Yeah.
Well, it also gives you, instead of having to say that you're all of this, you can prove it right from the start.
Yeah, I like that model. I think it's good as far as getting quality business versus quantity.
Yeah, and there's a great saying that from one of the networking groups I go to, for anybody local in San Diego, Exceptional Entrepreneurs is a fantastic networking group. And one of the main guys, Doug Means, says, a mother gave her daughter the greatest advice, which is listen to nothing that guys say and everything that they do, which applies to all of us. And when you're in person and you're having those interactions, it's much easier to be able to look at people's actions, see how they're showing up, and get a real sense of them versus behind a screen.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you reminded me of this this video Sean Whalen posted like 2 years ago or something. And it was like this big montage video that he had somebody make. And it had to do with his kids. And he said, I can tell them how to live their life and how to be a good person, or I could show them.
Yes, I love that.
So, yeah, I mean, we lead by example, and we're told all these things our whole lives. Like, here's a perfect example, and it comes up all the time. But you go to school, you go to junior high, you go to high school, they tell you have to go to college, or else you're not going to amount to anything. You're going to work at McDonald's flipping burgers is what they tell you. But they never mention anything about getting certifications, going to trade schools, finding your true passion and just chasing it. It seems like everything is so molded, and then you're put into like this, like a Jello mold basically, and then you're expected to hold that design. And if you don't, then you're looked at as being the black sheep or somebody who doesn't take life seriously. And there's a number of other examples, but I think that the people who are willing to find their true passion and just chase it relentlessly are a lot more free. They might not be more financially stable, but they're definitely more free in that they're allowed to have artistic creativity. Whereas if you're working for somebody else, you have to do it exactly like they say, in their box, in their mold, and it's the same thing forever. There was a question that I came across earlier today, and it said, would you rather fail at something that you're passionate about or be successful at something that you hate?
Oh, that's good. Actually, I was just talking about that with Rob earlier today. So you guys are familiar with Rob Garcia. That's how you saw me doing a Facebook Live with him, and we got connected. And we were talking about the difference of having that stability, that certainty that you got a good job, but if you hate your life, what does it matter? Versus doing something that you're passionate about, really enjoy, and you're happy and fulfilled.
I think here's a perfect example of that. And I'm not trying to talk about myself too much, but Brad and I both are kind of going through this breakthrough period. And for me, it's been very prominent. So like, I have a really good job and I love my job. I love what I do, but it doesn't satisfy that true depth, like in-depth passion that I have.
Uh-huh.
And I made a big statement today of how I've gotten sober in the last week and continue to stay that way, and just kind of breaking out of my comfort zone. And now I'm being able to like start talking about it and things. So that is a whole nother level of discomfort. But you, Dom Fawcett in his book said something along the lines of, you don't need alcohol or tobacco because you're using it as a crutch to hide negative emotions and give you this numb that you don't necessarily need. You're in a comfort zone and you need to break out of it. He said, if you get off work and you get home and you can't wait to crack open a beer and flip on the TV and sit in your chair, you're comfortable and you're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, I think I'm eventually going to hit that breakout period, but right now, I think I'm kind of more in a focused area where I'm focused on learning something. Like, I handle the editing, and it's like I want to get faster and better and make better content, and just kind of focused on that one thing. And I don't know, it's I see how I can do it, but it's just a learning process. And now moving, it's kind of on the back burner, and I'm kind of mad about it, but I got to move and learn at the same time, I guess.
You got to learn to multitask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen to YouTube and pack your boxes at the same time. So, so anyway, we kind of went off on a tangent, but
Totally cool.
what was it that got you into what you're doing now? Like, how did you find that this is what fueled your fire?
So, and go so many directions with this. I'm gonna go back years ago. So I've always been very passionate about helping other people, really making a big impact in the world. So before, I was always very money driven, but also coming from the heart. And I had an IT company with one of my best friends where I was working 60 to 100 hours a week between that and part-time, full-time hours at Costco, my normal job. For 2.5 years, we were doubling our numbers every 6 to 12 months, even though we did start off in the negative. But so on a financial standpoint and a business standpoint, we were looking in a good direction. But regardless, long story short, to bottom line it, my family and friends didn't agree with what I was doing. Certain things didn't work out with the partnership, started going downhill. My business partner got financially irresponsible, ended up getting into some heavy drugs, and not to say I didn't make a number of mistakes myself. But in the end, the business didn't work out. I had everything in my own name. I ended up filing bankruptcy, quote unquote, hit rock bottom. And all I really had to show for it was a bunch of learning experiences. Other than that, I lost out on a bunch of time with family, friends, life experiences. And so I brought myself back down to the basics and started growing and developing myself in all areas of my life, figuring out what's my next journey, taking better care of my health, getting my finances back on track. And a few years down the road, I got to the point where I was really getting a good hold of myself and figuring all the things out that I really wanted to help other people not make the same mistakes that I did, not go through the same hardships, and where they can live life and prosper. Because the thing is, you don't have to work your life away. And actually, the biggest thing about it, there's many entrepreneurs and people that are very passionate about what they're doing, and they work their butts off. And they work. And when you reverse engineer that and actually put some fun, your love life, your health and things first before your business and still put a good amount of time and energy and focus on your business, you're much more clear. You're able to see things from a different point of view. You can think outside the box. You can be a lot more creative, and you can really do a lot more with your business and not, quote unquote, kill yourself while you're doing it. And another thing that I want to point out really quick too, you mentioned earlier something about one telling you what to do. And that's what I love about what I do. So I coach people to gain and ensure clarity on their goals, where they're living a life true to themselves and implementing that plan and getting there. But so with coaching and the type of coaching that I do, because nowadays that has so many different definitions depending on who you're talking to, I really help people find the answers within. I challenge them with thought-provoking questions in order to bring out their highest and best selves so they can take that 10,000-foot view back up and see what's going on in the bigger picture. Just like when I was in that IT company, and friends and family and other people around me didn't agree with what I was doing and had some great solid advice of things that I should not do. And I didn't listen because I was so focused and I had my head down and I was on my mission where I just wasn't receptive to it.
So, I mean, you rendered me speechless. Good job.
I did the
I
same
know that was a mouthful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when you do get a new client, we know your ultimate goal. What is it that you start with? What's the first thing that you get into with them?
Yeah, so I actually just started something new because I created an amazing tool. But so the first thing is seeing what some of their goals and their thoughts are with their life, what they really want. And simply I start out with like a 10-minute questionnaire that they fill out ahead of time. So we can start challenging their thinking a little bit, see where they're at. And then when we get into a conversation, we dig deeper into that and I poke around in there and see where their decisions are being based off of with some of the goals that they said they want, or maybe they don't even have those, and we dig around with their interests and stuff. Once we can get a clearer picture on that, I've created this tool that designs out your goals in such a way that you're always being pulled forward so that you don't give up, you keep moving forward, and you end up getting the results that you want.
That's awesome because, I mean, I could probably speak for 90% of everybody on the planet. When you're not seeing results, you're just down in the dumps and you hate it. And I mean, that's in anybody's sight would be amazing to always see goals because then you're always feeling like you're successful and you keep pushing it forward.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I've found, and what I believe is the last 10%, before you get to that line you cross over, whatever that means for you to your goal, is just as hard, if not harder, than the first 90%. So many people are ambitious, they might even have goals, they work their butts off, they get so far, but to cross that finish line is that last 10% is everything. And it's the difference between achieving the results or not achieving the results.
You got to sprint to the finish. But there is no finish line.
And then there's that. Yeah, there's multiple finish lines, I would say.
It's more like laps, I guess.
There you go.
It's been defined by a couple people on our show as rungs on the ladder. You get to that first step, you got to lift your foot up, get to the next step. But a ladder does have an end. I think like one of those tracks that goes around the high school football field.
A track?
Track, cross country, not cross country.
No, that's just called a track.
Running track. You can keep going forever.
Yeah, well, and there's a saying, what got you here won't get you there. So when you hit that first step or that second step, oftentimes there's an area of plateauing, just like when you go to the gym, where it requires different thinking and different ways of being to get to that next step.
That makes sense. With what you're doing, we kind of already talked about like the mold and how everybody says you have to fit in this certain box. Dogs. Do you feel that people that you work with have to be willing to unlearn everything that they've learned in their life before you can help them? Or is that part of the process and you can do both at the same time?
No, I feel that people have to be, the key word that you said there is willing. Those ones that are open and optimistic, they see other possibilities and don't think they know everything. To me, the one that thinks they know everything is actually the least smartest person in the room. I'll be the first to admit it. I will never say that I'm perfect, I know it all. None of us do.
Well, I think the biggest thing that you just said is the willingness. If you don't have the willingness to not only succeed at what you're doing, but to better yourself,
Yeah.
I mean, what are you even doing? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And another interesting thing is I want to point out, since you've mentioned a couple times being in that mold, I'm reading a book, The Icarus Deception by Seth Godin, and it talks about how the rich and the powerful and people with major influences have set up the economy in this world so that you don't fly too high and you also don't fly too low. So we have so much barrier to entry per se, and maybe that's not the right word, but we have to provide for our roof over our head, our food, our bare minimum expenses, so we can have a place to live and we're not homeless. And a lot of companies pay you just enough so you can afford a lifestyle where you don't go homeless, but also you don't have an abundance of freedom where you can just go off and do what you want and leave that company, where it keeps you confined within the company and being that laborer.
Sounds a lot like slavery.
It really, in a sense, is. It's manipulative slavery that's not being portrayed that way, because obviously none of us want to be considered a slave. But if we really look at the lives of many people, and a lot of people have 2 or 3 jobs or work 60, 70, 80 hours a week just to survive.
It's funny too, because I've met some people that work corporate jobs and stuff like that, and they make a decent living and kind of, I don't want to say that they're on a high horse, but they kind of look down to anybody who's not at their level in the world or above. But then you meet somebody, there's a lot of people that I know who are plumbers, electricians, bricklayers, and they have a better lifestyle as far as their quality of life, even though they may not make as much or have as many worldly possessions.
Yeah.
They're definitely happier, and they're not far off on that financial scale.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with, in my eyes, our perception and our relationship we have with ourselves and everything around us. And that's one thing that I really focus on coaching people around is the relationship. You know, we all have a relationship around time, money. You have to work twice as hard to make twice as much money, or you think you can work smarter versus harder and make much more money. And so throughout our whole lives, we've gained these experiences and things that have happened in our lives where we meant it means something. And we have people around us, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, that also have these views based on their experiences, where we get influenced by these patterns, and it shapes our thinking and our influence and what we think and see as possible. So once we can create some of those awarenesses of what those actually are, that could be slowing somebody down or stopping them from getting to that next step or what they really want in life, then we can look at what types of things can we do to practice shifting that so we can make those changes and move on and really get what we want.
It's almost like a lot of people nowadays, their vision is cloudy. They know what they want, but they don't truly know what they want, or they don't know how to get there.
Or they have an idea of what they want, but it may not be true to them. It could be influenced by an outside source.
Yeah, those are huge points. Another thing is just either being embarrassed or scared to try something different because it might not work out or other people might not agree with them.
If somebody doesn't agree with you, I would think that that would fall under fear of what other people would think.
Absolutely.
And we started a YouTube channel. That's how this whole thing started. And then it morphed into a podcast when we had distance between us. And honestly, I'm more passionate about the podcast than the channel that we had. But when we came up with the idea, we told our significant others, and both of them looked at us and went, "That's stupid." And now we've been at it for what, a year total?
Yeah, pretty close.
Now I'll tell my wife, I'll come in, I'll be like, "Guess what? We're talking to this person on this day." And she's like, "Holy shit, how are you doing this? Like, how are you getting these people to hop on your show? Like, you're not big." And I'm like,
We ask.
worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no or never respond.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have the no than never respond, but that's me.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah,
I think that's another great point is people are not just afraid, they're just afraid of failure, when failure is the best teacher. I mean, the moment you truly fail is when you stop. So why are you going to stop?
yes.
Not only that, that was like that episode when we talked to Dirty, the musician.
Mm-hmm.
He said People don't play to win; they play to not lose.
That's huge. And just like Michael Jordan has said that I love living by is I don't compete with the other players. I compete with myself. So I'm always looking to up level myself. I'm not really focused on what other people are doing. I want to make my own path, my own impression. It's me, my life. I'm unique and different than anybody else in this world. I don't need to be like anybody else. I just want to be myself. And I don't need to compete with anybody else because, I don't know, I just think it's pointless.
Stay in your own lane. It's funny. I answered a question the other day. Somebody said, they asked, what's your favorite part about yourself? And I said, I am myself, and I'm the only one of me in the world. That's all that matters.
Nice.
Oh, there was something else. Oh, I totally had a point back on my last rant and missed the whole punchline. But no, like we had a lot of negativity around just this idea of the podcast. And we said, you know what, we're going to do it. This is what we want to do. So you do it, you know, you take the leap. And if it's something that you're passionate about, I think it's something that you're truly just going to spend the time and the money and the energy and the focus to learn how it works, learn best practices. We've hired 2 coaches already. So we're learning from a lot of people, but it's just one of those things, like, we don't care what other people think. A lot of people are going to hate us. A lot of people are going to love us. We're going to stay in our own lane, stay hyper-focused, and just kind of drive in our tunnel and kind of just network along the way. But fear just constantly comes up for everybody. They're like, well, what if I fail? What if I don't make it? What if I don't make any money? What if? What if you win? What if you start making a ton of money and get everything that you've ever wanted? You know, like, well, I'm never going to make it. Not with that attitude. That's what I tell people all the time. Not with that attitude.
Yeah, and like you said, we're all going to have fears that come up, some more intense than others. And that's part of this structure that I put within my tool that I created for your goals, where I say it's constantly pulling you forward, because this section within it is about support, accountability, and for some reason, one other word I can't think of. But anyways,
I'm rubbing off on him.
Those things that we know we're fearful of and when we're going to have the resistance. So me personally, one of mine is making a bunch of phone calls just to connect with people, see what they're up to in the world, tell them about what I'm doing, my coaching. And I have a lot of things come up for me. You know, is it going to be a good time for them? Are they going to be nice? Or am I going to be rushed? Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to freeze up? All the things. So one thing that I've put in place is with my coaching team is doing power hours, Zoom power hours. We'll literally get on a Zoom call, mute ourselves, and make phone calls. And then we can type in the chat box, hey, I'm struggling over here, or this just happened. Can you hop on with me? And then we can work it out in the moment. But like, we know what we're afraid of, what we're most resistant of. And in those points in time, if we actually ahead of time set up the accountability, set up the support structure, that's what's really going to get us over the line.
I think accountability is huge too. We were talking to Rob, and in the episode that we recorded with him, he looked at both of us and said, why are you guys not accountability partners? And we went, good question.
Yeah,
So
yep.
now, once a week, roughly, we'll hop on a Zoom call for about an hour, and we're like, hey, we want to talk to this person, this person, this person. Like, we make a list, we go through and work our schedule down for releases. Like, we just, honestly, I feel like in that 1 hour that we talk, we get way more done than we do through the whole week just texting.
Mhm.
It's insane. So the idea of that power hour is awesome. But I did want to backtrack one little space. We were talking about fear and doubt, and I recently came across this. Now it's my personal definition of doubt: is having doubt in your mind is equivalent to betting against yourself.
Having doubt in your mind is the equivalent to betting against yourself.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
I read that one time like a week ago, and I was just like, long-term memory stuck.
Well, and I think one more thing to add on to that, with my wife getting her new job, she put in for this job. And she goes, well, I'm not going to get it. I go, why do you already believe that you're not going to get it? Well, there's this, there's that. Why are you already degrading yourself? Why can't you get that job? I mean, you're certified, you've done this, you've done that, you've done the other, and now you think that you can't do it? Why can't you do it? Why can't you go out and get that job you want? Why can't you go and get the life that you want? I mean, anything's attainable.
You just have to go out and chase it once you know what it is that you want.
Yeah, and I don't remember the exact story, but there's something along the lines of when you come to a crossroad and you're thinking about whether, we'll go with what you said of, I'm not going to get that job, and having that mindset of all those fears and things in the place. And then you have that other road where you see the possibility and how I can get it and what's on the other side, and what if I get this job, how awesome would that be? Which one are you going to take? And the answer is the one that you feed. So you feed yourself that doubt and all the negativity, and there's a much likelier chance that that's going to come to fruition. Which, super glad your wife got the job. That's totally awesome. Even though she might not have been feeding that so much, but I mean, feeding that, having that full faith and confidence, and just believing in yourself and seeing the possibility and putting your focus and energy on that, more often than not, you're going to bring that to fruition.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That was like I think it was Colby K told us, your life becomes the sum of your thoughts, feelings, and actions.
And that's one thing that I'm always looking for when I coach people is, are your speaking, actions, and intentions all in line? It's crazy how much we actually lie to ourselves. And it's interesting if you ask somebody if they're a liar, and I guess I should have started off with that, but oh well. But if you ask somebody if they're a liar, the most common response is no. And even if they're a liar and a compulsive liar, they're going to lie to you anyway.
That was a lie.
But when you look at yourself and you think about how many times you said, I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to get up at this time in the morning, or whatever the thing is you said you were going to do and you didn't end up doing it, you lied to yourself. Period. Your speaking, your actions, and your intentions were not in line. And I like to dig deeper into that and see what's under there. That's when it gets interesting.
Well, I think the other part is you actually have to look at yourself, because there's a lot of people that you'll ask that. Like Kevin showed me a picture of things that people are wasteful on. And I was like, oh, I only do like one or two things. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. I do that. And I do that. Shit, I do that too. Damn it. And it's like, yeah, okay, I didn't really look at it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, okay, a deep look. I screwed up here, here, and here.
Mm-hmm.
It was a list of facts and money that people waste, whether it be power or what were the other
It
ones?
was like power, water, food.
Mm.
It was like a list of
It was
10.
a list of like 10 things.
Oh wow, and those would be it.
Yeah, and all of them were in the
Wow.
millions of dollars.
Yeah. There was a couple that were like in the billions. It was kind of surprising.
I would imagine so. Yeah, it's amazing what we take for granted.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got 4 kids, and I'm like, I'll make dinner. I don't like this. I'm not gonna eat it. I'm like, well, I made it, so you're not throwing it away. Like, that's wasteful. Like, that's my money going straight to the trash. I don't like that. Um, anyway, so we were talking about definitions and um, finding the root cause of some of these things. And this is a really good segue. There's only one question we ask on every episode, and that is, what is your personal definition of success?
Ooh, I love that. My personal definition of success is as simple as fulfillment and happiness. Short, simple, and right to the point. If I'm fulfilled and therefore I'm going to be happy, I'm successful.
You know, funny enough, that aligns with almost all of our top 5 that have been said. And we've talked to some people, and they're like, yeah, more money. I want this, I want that. And then you have this fulfillment, you know? Okay, yeah, I'd love to have a fulfilled life. That'd be awesome. Not be working my butt off.
To drive that a little deeper, what could you elaborate on fulfilled?
Yeah. So for me, being fulfilled is having some deep connected relationships where I can really just let go of everything. So with my girlfriend Sophia, for example, like I'm beyond fulfilled with her, and I can tell her absolutely anything, and she's probably the one person that I've told anything and everything about my life. I've shared more with her than I've shared with any one person that I've ever known in my life, which to me is just crazy. So I'm beyond fulfilled with her. But beyond that as well, where I can really be vulnerable and let my guard down everywhere and anywhere, is where I'm really showing up as my true authentic self, and I'm really fulfilled. So there were many points in time in my life where I would hide a great portion of it. Like my family, I would hide 90% of my life for many, many years. Where at this point now, I just don't even care and share everything. They don't quite agree with some of the paths that I've gone on, some of the crazy things that I've done. All of 2019, I was nomad. So you mentioned the money thing. Like, it's not always about money, it's about being resourceful. I was nomad for a full year, and I spent under $3,000 for having a roof over my head, where I would do house and pet sitting gigs and trade services. I would stay with friends and family. I've stayed in hostels. I traveled over 15,000 miles, part by car, part by plane. And I just went where I wanted to go.
That's awesome. And that's something that I've kind of been wanting to do deep down, but at the same time, I don't like traveling. So, but like I've got a couple friends that are wanting to buy vans and convert them and stuff like that, and sell their house and go kind of just rock that world. So I think it's kind of cool because it comes back to quality of life. Because some of these people that some people would look at them as homeless or gypsy souls or drifters or whatever they want to put the label on. You live in a bus, and like they might be way happier than Joe Schmo that lives in a $2 million mansion on the top of the mountain.
I call it homeless by choice.
I like it. We have an episode coming up, hopefully soon, where two individuals just did the same thing. They sold everything, bought this bus, converted it into a schoolie. They're traveling all over. They're blogging and vlogging the whole thing.
Nice.
So it's going to be interesting because it's just a whole different type of world that does exist. Just people don't seem to talk about it as much as they could be. Everything kind of seems to be turning into the tiny house world. And then they're like, well, you could just hook up your house and move. I'm like, well, you could just live and drive the house all over without the trailer.
Yeah, I had a friend that was like, but wait, you're homeless. I'm like, yeah, and I get to pick up and leave and go wherever I want, whenever I want, providing I don't have it scheduled to do a house sit or something that I've scheduled. Like, I get to go to the next place. If I'm tired or bored here, I don't like it, or I want to check out something new, I'm going.
So why'd you stop and kind of, I don't want to say plant roots, but live in San Diego full time now?
So a handful of different reasons. So one, I did go through a year-long coaching training program where we met in San Diego every other month for 3 or 4 days at a time in person. That was part of the program. And then I continued on with the leadership team and production side of things. So that happens in San Diego. I absolutely love San Diego. I would stay for 1 to 4 weeks at a time when I would come in just because I could. And then I ended up meeting Sophia, that we're so perfectly in line with goals, challenging ourselves. She eats healthy, takes good care of herself, wants to travel all over the world. And so I ended up moving in with her. So it was a little rough putting down the nomad thing because I did love it so much, but she's absolutely worth it and wants to travel all over the place. So the end of this month, we're taking a road trip to Colorado. We're going to do a house and pet sitting gig that I've done before because I reached out to these people. And it's in like a $2 million house in Boulder, Colorado. That's super sweet. And then mid-May to mid-July, we're going to spend 2 months in Costa Rica, 1 month on one side, another month on the other side that we have all booked out. And then we're thinking about maybe Christmas time or something, possibly going to Peru. So we're going to keep the traveling. And so part of my reasoning was actually to settle down somewhere for a little bit, make some ground roots, because it is also nice to be able to have friends that you can call up and go have a beer with or go hang out with, and not just be like, wow, we had an amazing couple days together on all these adventures, and hey, I might not see you again in my life. So I found my companionship and what I truly feel is my soulmate that I'm so thrilled about. And now we're going to end up going off traveling together.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, I don't think I have any other questions for you at this point.
Right on.
I don't think I have any other either. Nothing that's coming to mind at the moment.
Well, cool, man. We appreciate you giving us some of your time, and you kind of opened my eyes to a few things that I didn't think about before. So thank you.
Awesome. And I'm curious if you guys got a little bit more time. I would love to hear what's your greatest joys with the podcast that you're up to, and just a little bit about that.
I think my greatest joy so far is two parts. The first part is getting information out to people in such a way that is unique, because our goal was, like, we listen to a lot of podcasts that provide valuable information and help with mindset, business growth, business starting, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But nothing really spoke to me. I'm very rugged, I guess you could say.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted it to be real and just come at you from a perspective of person to person. And I feel like we've been able to provide that for the most part anyway. And I think that will resonate with a lot of people who are more like me, personality-wise. The other thing is we talk to everybody and learn all of these different trades that people are doing, different businesses. And then there's always a different style. Everyone's got their own personal twist. And that's something that's always kind of fascinated me. I've got a couple degrees in psychology and stuff. So learning about the different types of learning, different ways that people are doing things, I think is really fascinating. But it's also uplifting me in my personal development. And as far as that, like, it sounds really bad when I say it out loud, but we don't pay anybody to hop on our podcast. We don't receive any money for it. Everything that we're doing is free. And we've gained so much information that is invaluable, and we've gotten that for free. So why not implement it and move up, you know?
Love that.
I think for myself, it happened a couple days ago. A friend of mine that I probably haven't talked to in like 6 years, maybe more.
Sean?
Sean? No. That was like 2 weeks ago, but that was pretty cool. He's like, "Hey, I watched your podcast." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Thank you." And I go, "For what?" And he goes, "Well, like, I'm trying to get past all these things, and now I've got the job that I wanted because I finally got past these things. And listening to your podcast, it makes it feel like it's down home and you're sitting at the kitchen table talking to the person."
I love that.
Yeah, me too. It felt good. Gave me the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, that was one of our goals, and I think that we slammed that one out of the park so far. But that's just me being biased.
Yeah. Nice. Well, it was definitely a pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it and felt very relaxed. Like, we're just hanging out and talking, having a good time, providing value. And so I'm sure the people listening, and ourselves included, I absolutely got a lot of value here. And keep up the great work. I really acknowledge both of you for what you're doing, putting yourself out there like this, going against the grain, getting the pushback for some people, or wondering why are you doing this, or telling you that you might be crazy, and everything in between. But to still push forward and move forward with something that you're passionate about, to help your personal growth and to pass that along to others at the same time is awesome.
Well, thank you. We'll get your information put in the description for this episode so that people can reach out for you if they feel like you're going to be a good fit for them, which hopefully they do.
Fantastic. And with that, I mean, people can reach out. We can have a quick 15-minute conversation so we can get that gauge. And then I have a pretty extraordinary offer that I've just started offering. So seeing I created that tool for designing out your goals in such a way you're always being pulled forward. I created this from all my experiences, everything I know, and it's nothing that I've seen out in the world, which is why I created it. And so if people have that 15-minute conversation with me and we both like what we're hearing from each other, we'll move to that next step where they can fill out that questionnaire to start digging a little deeper. And when we have our conversation, complimentary, by the way, we'll dive into the questionnaire, dive deeper, get one of their top goals, run it through my tool where they get something they can walk away with that they're able to implement, whether they decide to work with me or not.
Very cool.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, because, you know, my biggest thing is to serve and provide value. And if people can't afford me, they're at least going to want to refer me.
Yeah.
So my whole idea is that I'm going to provide so much value. I'm going to rock your world, and you're going to want to work with me. And if you can't make that happen because of money or whatever the thing is, you're at least going to want to refer.
Love it.